Hello, this isn't a normal broadcast of Reluctant Artsy. This is a description of a version of uh, the survival mode scenario provided to Kickstarter backers. It is the Wolves Den, and there will be variations of that. So there will be uh, full spoilers. So if you are planning on playing this and not narrating or GMing this, then I strongly advise you to wait until you have completed this and see how it compares. The group that we played with has began with 4 players, went up to 5 players, and is now down to 4 players again. This survival mode scenario has been provided for the Walking Dead universe, AMC, by Free League Publishing. And the Walking Dead universe will be released in the not too distant future. This is late July 2023, and so I hope that you enjoy this presentation that's different from what I normally offer on my channel. This will be a full explanation of what happened in our story right through until almost the end of this scenario. And we are playing in a campaign style rather than a survival mode style. So we're using the Wolves Den as the beginning of a campaign and not as survival mode. Therefore, the characters that have been presented are not the ones that were provided for this scenario. They have come from the players themselves. They have created these characters and have also done a life path system of a sorts to build up their understanding of their own initial characters and to draw them closer in to that immersion that we look for in role playing. So, without further ado, I will now explain how it unfolded, and I hope you enjoy this narration. The story begins in the foothills of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains. It is a heavily forested area, and the characters find themselves in the woods, in a bunker, a military bunker that's not very large, where they've been living for the past year. The event took place 3 years, 2 months, and 6 days earlier. And now they find themselves going to bed after a night of drinking. 2 gentlemen, twins, found some wine, and everybody has indulged quite merrily. The bunker consists of a number of people. The non-player characters are Gerald and George, the twin plumbers. We also have Doris, who is a technological genius, an older lady, and she is in a wheelchair. We have Elijah and his dog Pero. He is a politician, and he is protected by his trusty companion, Amber, who is a Marine. Kayla is a dancer, sarcastic, negative, and always uh, just sarcastic. The main characters are Dakota, who is a medical surgeon. She is part of this group because Barry, who is a wannabe linebacker who could get into Clemson, but has not yet finished high school, much to his mother's chagrin. He wants to please her, and that is his motivation, to please his mother. But he finds himself dressed up, all fancy, with a katana, and uh, and part of this group because Dr. Dakota was trained by his mother, who is also a surgeon, and therefore linked himself up with her. There is a student archaeologist named Sam. She's a graduate student, was planning on flying over to Europe to do some digs, but has found herself stuck in this situation. She is accompanied by Mitch, her brother. Dakota is accompanied by Mark, her firefighter husband, and Carl, her son. Aaron, who is a car thief, but a high-end car thief. His his connections with the mob found him getting paid quite well for his ability to identify and get cars. But unfortunately, his brother is a cop and someone who has turned a blind eye to his exploits, but he does so because he's stealing from the rich in order to provide for his brother and Miles, his nephew, Aaron's nephew. And so Miles is with him as well. So our player characters are Dr. Dakota, who is in her late 30s, Aaron, who is also in his late 30s. We also have Barry, the linebacker who wants to please his mom. And we have Sam, the archaeologist graduate who is looking after her brother Mitch, and who also is dating a stud called Michael. Along with this group that are in the bunker, who are sleeping kind of almost on top of one another, but there are a couple of rooms where Dakota and her family sleep along with some of the children. There is a school teacher, and her name is Becca, and she has been with the group for about 4 or 5 months now. She's been teaching the children. The group wakes up in the morning and realizes that there are some issues. First, Aaron gets up, looks around, and sees that Becca and Michael have left. Not only have they left, they've taken whatever food supplies were remaining, and they've gone into Dakota's medical supplies and taken at least half of her supplies. This will be a problem in the future. And so when Dakota wakes up, she's frantic to recover these medical supplies. The group gets together after seeing that Becca and Michael have left, but they've also left not only with these essential supplies, some weapons, but also Doris needs a special van to get around that has a wheelchair lift. This was something that they have kept. It has gas in it, more gas than the other vehicle that Dakota has, which is a minivan. Doris's van is gone. And this is alarming because now, if the group needs to escape the walkers, they do not have enough room in the van, and the van only has a small amount of gas to get only a certain distance, not very far. The group is concerned, and the two leaders, Elijah and Doris, kind of argue it out in terms of what needs to be done. Dakota essentially argues that the most important thing is getting back the medical supplies, but to keep the children safe. Becca and Michael have left, and Sam reveals that she's pregnant. And she's 3 months pregnant. She's furious with Rebecca and with Michael. And secretly she wants to kill Becca. Because she realizes that she stole her man away from her. But she didn't see it coming. So she wants vengeance. Dakota wants her supplies. Aaron and Barry want to help. And they want to go because they realize that the food is an essential part of what they need. So the group, after a discussion, decides that Mark, Dakota's husband, the firefighter, that George and George, the twin plumbers who have been the scavengers, will stay with Doris, Carl, Dakota's son, and Mitch, Sam's son, or Sam's brother. Miles will join Kayla, Amber, and Elijah along with the 4 PCs. And they will head out as a group in the minivan, shoved together as close as they can to drive out. But when they think about it, they realize they only have one vehicle and they can't waste the gas. So they go on foot. After a day's travel, they leave immediately. After a day's travel, they go, and it's been raining, pouring, in fact, all day and night long. They arrive on a ridge and see in front of them a tent. As they look down, they see this orange tent, clearly a tent that was stolen. And they watch. There's no van, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of life. They move down the ridge, and they get closer and realize that there is shuffling inside. Aaron and Barry approach, and dispatch of a walker who is shuffling around trying to get out. They discover that inside the tent, this was indeed Michael and Becca's last place. But there is no sign of them. There's no sign of the medical supplies or the weapons. And there's a tear in the top of the tent, which indicates that something happened. As they look around and investigate, even though it's quite muddy, they realize that there was a group of people that dragged away others. They quickly realize that Michael and Becca have in some way been captured, and not by walkers. They continue on and decide to walk down a particular eastern path. And they make their way to a location that is a village. It has a W painted outside. The players realize what this is in movie terms, AMC terms, but as characters, they just think that it indicates that there are walkers around. They look at the village and they realize that there are a few points of interest. And they see right in front of them, and the first thing that they see is not a church, and not so much the buildings that are on the main road, but that there in front of them, about 200 to 300 meters away, about 300 meters away, is Doris's van. They decide to break up into groups. Elijah and the dog and Amber decide that they're going to stay behind and watch what unfolds. Miles, Aaron, Dakota, Sam, and Barry move forward, splitting up into two groups. Aaron and Dakota, the older members, start looking into the houses that are on the right-hand side. They're looking for any type of supplies and any sign of individuals. Ignoring the church and continuing on, Sam and Barry go toward the van in quite a careless way. They open up the van from the back, and there is nothing there. They immediately move to the front of the van and see that everything is intact. There's nothing inside that would indicate anything other than it's been driven. And there is no gas. It's actually run out of gas and is now in front of another vehicle. And they think to themselves, let's get some gas from the other vehicle and check the other vehicle. So they leave Doris's van and get out and recklessly go toward the car and open up the door and look in the front at the gas meter. It indicates that it is out of gas. They look around and they open up the back door thinking that maybe there might be supplies. They rush forward to kind of see, because they see that there's a teddy bear there and a walker comes out and attacks them. The walker uh, does some slight damage to Barry, but not enough to bite. Sam quickly comes around with her sledgehammer and bashes the zombie on the head. And they see this little doll from behind the car. Unbeknownst to them, a little girl zombie comes forward very quickly, and they have time to dispatch her, but they certainly have stress from the horror of seeing this young girl and someone who may have been a relation. We get back to Aaron and Dakota, who are inside the buildings looking around. As they look around, they encounter some walkers. They are able to dispatch them. They also find a canoe in the basement of one of the buildings, not having the time to take it out as they had to rush up, hearing the screams of Sam and Barry. So, they are now moving eastward as a group. They decide to check all the vehicles for supplies, and they don't find anything. And they decide to split up again. One group going into a building that is a gas station. The other group goes into the bar. The group that goes into the bar, of course, are the young ones, Sam and Barry. They decide to go through the front door without any concern. They go in the front door of the bar and see two people, Veda, an obvious soldier, and Megan, a very bizarre looking woman who has gardening equipment and overalls and looks quite dangerous. There's a invitation to drink for Sam and Barry, and they are cautious and continue a conversation with these two individuals. At the same time, we see that Dakota and Aaron have gone into the garage. Once again, they encounter a walker, and they easily dispatch the walker. They find a scooter after shuffling around in parts and believe that they can put it together. Miles is with them, and Miles, who has been with them all this time, is very keen on this scooter. So the story continues, and we find ourselves now back at the bar. Sam and Barry are realizing that things are not great here, and they realize that things might escalate. Someone fires a shot, and a duel occurs between these two different groups. It's important to remember that when they look at Veda and Megan, there are W's carved in their heads, something that they notice as they get closer to one another. Shots are fired, and kind of a response comes up once again from Dakota and from Aaron. By this point, a new character has joined the group. He has a baseball cap saying Nirvana. He's got a t-shirt on, and he's got a mechanic's toolbox. He comes in to the he walks down the street as they are coming out of the gas station, and they have a conversation, and they realize that he is a wolf as the cap starts slipping back. They are very suspicious, but he pleads that he is innocent and that he was forced, and that he knows where their friends are, and he can lead them to them. At this point, of course, the interchange has happened between the others, and so they run across the street. The two die, and they now, the two, Veda and Megan, die. In this scuffle, Miles takes quite a severe hit. He's got 2 hours to live. He has a gash in his stomach and needs surgery immediately. At the same time, Sam had a very disastrous situation. Breaking from the narration, the character rolled, got a critical, and it was a very bad critical. One of the ones that indicates that her character was going to die. So because we were so early in the game, and not wanting to just simply kill a character, sorry for the paper shuffling, she rolled a 64 where she was disemboweled. Oh no, she rolled a 60. You were surrounded, push you to the ground for several seconds. You managed to fight them off, but one of them presses its face against your stomach and starts tearing out your intestines with its teeth. You die screaming. So it was a walker. So as a GM, I'm thinking about what to do, and this is the first crisis. And so I decide that I will give her an option. And I say, well, instead of your character dying, you can have been severely damaged with internal bleeding, but no bite, but you will be hemorrhaging and you will have lost the baby. So she opted for that. So this is a very serious situation. This serious situation with Sam and now Miles means that Dakota needs to get them to a safe place as quickly as possible. They go across the street and get into the garage, which is empty but has enough room for them to do some quick surgery. While she does the while she does her work as a surgeon and uses up almost the rest of her supplies, which were, as a mechanical um, uh, kind of note, side note, that they were A's, advanced. And so Dakota was able to save both Sam and Zane. But Zane is, for a very long time, going to be at -3. Sam is going to be bad for uh, about a week. And she's at -1. I gave her a bit of a mobility negative in terms of kind of -2 for a couple of days. So she wasn't moving very quickly, and she was emotionally um, very upset, of course. Um, because the baby or the infant or the fetus, um, wasn't a integral part of uh, her issue or her drive. Um, it was decided that I decided that it wouldn't impact any further, as everybody was learning the game. And so we continue. They are healed. They spend the night. They speak to one another. They check in. Aaron and Zane have become very, very close and are dependent on one another. And Barry continues to support the group, and Miles is needing to be carried to the next location. Zane talks about the group that they are going to be facing and mentions the fact that there he has seen about 5 of them, and he identifies these 5. He talks about a prison guard, and that they're a group of people who are being held hostage and who need to fight with walkers. He also informs them that there is a farmer, a bouncer, a model, and a translator. Uh, he speaks about the fact that this is a very violent group and that he wants out, and that he will only go and show them where this place is in order to get protection and to join with a new group. So, Zane, this new player character, has now joined the group, and Aaron and Zane have uh, have become uh, have become each other's anchor. At this point, Barry is Sam's anchor, Samantha's anchor. Uh, Barry is Dakota's anchor. Uh, Barry's anchor is Dr. Dakota. And Aaron is just continuing on and doing what he can to help Miles in any way. So they've packed up. The strong characters have packed up. That's uh, the linebacker and the uh, the uh, uncle, Aaron, have packed up the scooter parts and are now moving toward the next location. It's slow going as they have some injured people. The Elijah, his dog, Amber, and Kayla all join back up with the group, stating that there are zombies on the way. Before they set off, they actually go into to scout again for supplies, and they go into a shop. And I think this is actually the gas station. I think they went into uh, the garage or maybe the house first. But anyway, they've gone now into this uh, kind of mini gas station mart, kind of like a convenience store. And what ensues is, because of all the gunshots over time and everything, they've become animated. They go in, and the group has to fight uh, a swarm. And this is the first time that they've encountered a swarm in the inside, and this definitely has taken its toll on them. They do succeed, but it certainly has shown the players that this is not going to be easy. So they move out of the town, and now they are moving from Ravenhill to Evergreen. Now they make it outside Evergreen, and they are on the south, um, the southern part. So they are on the southern part, looking from the woods toward the toward the truck that is not overturned. They are looking at a vehicle, a pickup truck. So they see a pickup truck. They see the other overturned 18-wheeler, and they see the Palisades. Now, the Palisades have been described as they're able to kind of see within it, but their view is blocked by some rocks. It's blocked by the overturned truck. But they can see inside, and they see that there is a fire going, and it is now quite late in the evening, and within an hour, it's going to be dark. Without much care, they go out of this little forested area to the pickup to check out what's going on with the pickup. Aaron and Zane go in and hotwire the pickup. They are able to do so. There is gas in the pickup. So they hotwire this truck, and it's going. At the same time, Miles is with them. At the same time, Barry and Sam and Kayla, as I recall, make it to the truck, the one that is upright. And they look inside. They see that there is no gas inside this truck. And they decide that they're going to move in the back and look and see if there are any canned goods. All along for a game session, the surgeon Dakota keeps on hearing that there are walkers in the woods, and that she keeps on hearing walkers. She can't pinpoint them, but she's hearing them. She's hearing the scuffling. And the other player characters are hearing her say. So they decide to open up the back of the truck. A bunch of walkers swarm them, and they are in trouble. Aaron, Zane, Barry take on this group. And they take on this group of walkers, this swarm of walkers, and they are they're having a really rough time. And this reminds me of a fact that I've got wrong so far. Miles did not join them. Kayla was with them, and it was actually Elijah and Amber who stayed behind with Miles. Okay, so Kayla joins them. Miles stays back because he's too injured to move. I recall that now. So Miles is with Amber and Elijah back in the town. So they're back in Ravenhill, and they're, a good long walk, a day's walk away, but close because of the mud and everything, that it's close enough that something will happen a little bit later on. So what happened? Kayla ends up assisting. Sam and Dakota stay out of it, and Barry ends up dying. And he just gets bitten, and Aaron skewers him so that he doesn't turn into a zombie, and he dies. Aaron backs off and is able to back off enough that he's negotiated previously with Amber with 6 successes to have the use of 2 of her 3 grenades. So they have 2 grenades, and they decide that they're going to launch a grenade in the middle of this swarm. Because of the size of the swarm at the time, and because of their successes, it was decided that when the grenade went off in the back of this area, the others were hiding behind the rocks. It went off, and they blew up the remaining zombies that were, and it was a very successful roll, all within that particular area. The zombies were wiped out, still alive, of course, so they went around and stabbed the remainder. So they've dealt with the zombies, but a grenade has gone off. Now they start hearing zombies all around, starting to that hum and that shuffle and that movement toward them. At the same time, another character is introduced. Now, as a side note, at this point, we've had 21 hours of game time, or of time, and I would say probably 18 hours of actually playing out of those 21 hours, because we've been very focused. So all this is occurring in segments of 3 hours. So Barry is dead at this point, and we know that Veda and Megan are dead in the other area. We don't know at this point what the fate of Michael and Becca are. But we know that one player character doesn't have a character at the moment. And so we know that there's a need for another new character to come into into the game. And so this character is David. David Blart, the mall cop. David begins the session um, by shooting at their feet. He is a sniper, and he is this is his specialty. He's a sniper, and he is rolling really well. And so he's able to kind of give them continuous warnings that they should not be moving at this time. He is not a member of the Wolves, and he is kind of a happy-go-lucky guy with a scoped sniper rifle that is a suppressed sniper rifle, so it doesn't make as much noise. There's a discussion and there are introductions, and they are suspicious, but they realize that walkers are coming out and they need to go in, but they also are able to see through the palisades enough that they see that there are people coming toward them. There's been some things that have happened because the character Barry died. This meant that Sam and Dakota, Dr. Dakota, had to roll fear. And so Sam became shattered, and she lost her drive. And so she believes that her brother Mitch is dead. She has no hope and spends the session in a daze, not knowing what to do or where to turn. As she comes out of her daze, and this is why she wasn't as involved in all of that grenade explosion stuff, we have, and it makes thematic sense. She's lost the baby. She's injured. She now has lost her anchor, who she relied on, this brawny young person that she did crazy things with. And so he's dead. She is shattered. She's lost any sense of drive. And so the only thing that is keeping her going is her desire to kill Rebecca. The first person that they see inside of the Palisades is a character called Jimmy. He's a former prison guard, and he is looking after whoever is in the barn. He has come out to see what is going on with this bang. He comes out. At the same time, others have heard this explosion, and now they are running, and they are coming toward where the overturned truck is. It is at this time that Sam comes to her senses and says, I have got to kill and find this Rebecca. And she's looking around. The surgeon and the mall cop get on top of the overturned 18-wheeler. They get on top. Aaron and Zane eventually get on top. Kayla was killed by those zombies before in that fight where Barry died. So she's also gone. So now we have a group of them up top. They shoot Jimmy and they kill Jimmy. Jimmy is dead. Jimmy is dead, and now they see Becca on her own coming out and trying to escape. She's coming toward them. The other group of 3 are now moving toward the overturned truck. These 3 are Rita, Kwame, and Linda. They all come right up to the front of the truck, and they light a Molotov cocktail. And they have a Molotov cocktail in their hand, and the sniper snipes it. And I believe that once again it was 6 successes, something ridiculous. So all 3 of them died, and they were dead, but at some point would become zombies. So they had potential zombies who were going to rise right next to the truck. Sam sees Becca and does not hesitate. She runs immediately. She's no longer holding her sledgehammer because she cannot hold anything of that weight with just having the loss of the baby and having the surgery to deal with the hemorrhaging. She is moving quickly with a dagger, and she's moving right up to Becca. Becca's saying, "Quickly, save me! Save me! We've got to go! We've got to go!" And Sam is looks are about to kill. So Becca is out. Peggy, the firefighter, comes out as well, and she gets shot by someone in the main house. This house is known as number 1. Someone has shot her from the main house. So there are shooters in the main house. They cannot shoot all the way over to the overturned truck, but they can shoot in the grounds. They've got that much range, but they can't shoot the mall cop, David. And he is now looking around trying to pick off people inside building number 1, the main building. So Sam makes it to Becca. Peggy has dropped close by. And just to see if I am correct in this, what happened to Jimmy? Jimmy died with a shot in the head. He did not become a zombie. So Peggy's there, and she is turning at this time close to Becca and Sam. So Becca and Sam are right next to each other. And Sam goes to make a stab, but falls. She falls on top of Becca. Becca and Sam are on the ground. The other wolves that have been killed by the Molotov cocktail have now come alive and are moving into this central area. Sam is telling Becca she's going to kill her. Becca is saying that Michael is evil and that it wasn't her fault, that Michael has slept with everyone. And as Becca is struggling, and as the zombies are starting to make their way on top of them, around the corner come Angus and Daisy. Angus, who's a teacher, is making sign language to Daisy, a teenager of around 15 years old, a little bit older than most of the other young people who are part of this group, who are in their 13, 14s. She's obviously deaf. Angus is motioning to her with his hands. There's zombies all around. And Angus gets killed and is turned into a zombie. And then right after, Michael immediately comes out holding hands with a boxer. Her name is Annika, and she has mitts on, training gloves. She's obviously grabbed them before coming out, but she's holding hands with Michael. Becca and Sam are rolling around trying to avoid the bites of at least 2 or 3 walkers. They are in a melee. Sam grabs her knife and tries to plunge it once again into Becca, but is unsuccessful. But where she was unsuccessful, as a walker bites her, and in her dying breath, Becca says that not only was he bad, and not only did he sleep around, but he even slept with Doris. The horror and the anger is just raging within Sam as she sees this woman die before her eyes, and she herself gets attacked by a zombie and ends up dying. Aaron, who was closed in and closed the gap, immediately stabs Sam in the head and kills her outright so that she does not turn. The same with Becca. Who's heard this is Annika. And Annika, who was holding hands with Michael, has now backed away, has looked at him, and Aaron is saying she was pregnant. She was pregnant with his kid. What are you doing? And Annika turns, and before she does anything, Sam's player takes over Annika, which was something that was planned before everyone else arrived. And she had stats and everything and had done talents. I allowed her to use the experience points that Sam had gained. And so now Annika has different stats, a different character completely, but is a shock to everyone around the table because now the character is playing this PC, Annika, who was once Sam. Annika uh, uh, gets her boxing fists, her unarmed attack, and pummels Michael, knocking him down, and and eventually he dies. Um, but he also turns. So he's turned. And we also have Angus, who's been shot by someone on the second floor of the main building. And so they're shooting out. We have David, the sniper, trying to find people up there to hit and find their reflections, find if they're at the door or at the window. And so there's a lot of mayhem going on as this character who is beloved has died. Then there's this Rebecca. Was she a victim? Uh, was she in on all this all along? Was she um, more evil than Michael? What is going on? And all the player characters are moving along with the motion as everything is unraveling and as they sense that now the Palisades are gradually getting not one deep, but two deep and three deep in zombies as they push against the Palisades and are drawn by all of this human sounds and blood and screaming and shots and noise. This is a massive horde that's coming in around them from out of the forest and from, of course, the neighboring areas. They are now uh, a very huge threat. So we have now Daisy, who is mute, who is devastated at the loss of Angus, who is now in the midst of turning. We have as well Michael, who is in the midst of turning. They realize that things may not go their way given that everyone now is in the middle of the compound and that this haven is not what it seemed. Zane and Aaron get the group, Annika, Daisy, Dakota, and uh, and David, and bring them into the uh, the house number 10. It was described to them. There was a first floor. There was no basement that was described. There was an upstairs, a window facing west. They eventually would be told that there was a window facing northwest. They also had a living room that was toward the north of the building on the main floor where they could see only a part of house number 1, the main house. So there are more people in the house, some of which have been shot. One of them, who has been shot inside the house, um, was Aphid, and Aphid was shot outright. They don't know how many are in the house, but Zane, in this kind of safe house, as it were, in number 10, is kind of moving off to the side, and he's moving away from everyone in the darkness. It's now dark enough that it's very hard to see each other as the light is failing, and as the light of the bonfire is starting to go out. It's raining, and there's a concern that that light will be going out. Now, while they're gathered inside, David, uh, the one with the sniper rifle, is looking around, and everybody is investigating if there's any foodstuffs. And um, rolling on a random table, they come across uh, a couple of freeze dried hamburgers, a 6-pack of Coke, um, and also um, there was something else that they came across, and that they have. And so they've got some rations now that have been hidden away. And when David, the mall cop, opens up a cupboard door, a zombie comes out. A dormant zombie is fully awake and attacks with, once again, exceedingly unfortunate rolls. This poor player is having a terrible time with rolls, and it's either feast or famine. And so was doing really, really well with Barry and the katana before. Now with David, awesome sniping, some amazing shots of the Molotov cocktail, and now with every chance that I could possibly give, doing even above and beyond, there was no way to save him. He rolled a 66 for the zombie and was dead. Aaron immediately puts, once again, a knife in the back of his head and kills him. But before he dies, one of David's drives was to find his brother. Well, because there was a character created, and you have seen that I have many many examples of cards that I show the players, I had his brother already made. And so, coming down the stairs quietly, seeing that this was safe, he looks down and says, "Bro." And David looks up and says, "Paul, my brother." And he dies. Paul, now with the exact same stats as the other, he is a lazy gamer. And so Paul is now Paul Blart, not a mall cop, but a lazy gamer who apparently needs sugar, according to my players. So, Paul is now part of this group. And what type of games does he play? He is a shooter, and therefore is able to use this sniper rifle. And so, instead of going through all of the creation, since the player had only had this character for, at that point, 2 hours, um, and had really worked on this character for a week. I felt it incumbent upon myself to allow him to continue with the same stats that he had developed and everything. So Paul inherits his brother's stuff and is crying and is all upset. And Dakota is there, um, really feeling bad, but doesn't really know the person. Aaron doesn't know the person. So really, there's Annika, the boxer. Nobody really knows her. Only Dakota, Zane, and Aaron are part of this group. Uh, Paul says that he's been hiding upstairs for weeks or a month and hasn't eaten. And so he immediately sees his brother has dog food, and starts shoving his face with dog food. And as he's eating, um, Annika looks over in the corner, and with the light, as the darkness has come completely in, the light is now from the fire coming through and lights up a part of the room where they see Zane, who's forgotten his hat, and he has the W. And so Zane now is seen as a threat. He's a wolf. Daisy and Annika both back up and move to the back of the room. And they're petrified and they're pointing and they're saying, "Why is he here? You are all part of the wolves, aren't you?" And Paul now is getting up and he's moving and guns are drawn and everybody is trying to figure out what to do, and nobody knows what to do. A discussion happens, and Zane assures them and convinces them that he's cool. Aaron speaks on Zane's behalf, speaking of how he gave up so much stuff and led them here so that they could recover their medical supplies. And Dakota says, "Yeah, it's about the medical supplies. I need to get back to my family." There's a sound, and Dakota tries to hear it but isn't too sure what she heard. She thought she heard a gunshot, but it could be um, house number one, the main house, shooting. She wasn't too sure, but it sounded farther away. Paul goes upstairs and looks out the western facing window, and after a bit of time, hears shots in the distance. Asks Dakota to come upstairs. Dakota comes upstairs and listens as well, finally hearing that in the distance, they can just make out the sound of a dog and the sound of an automatic rifle. Amber and Pero are making sounds. So now they've got this running through their heads, and they move downstairs. And Annika and Dakota and Daisy start to try to communicate with one another, and Daisy is going like this and is trying to indicate something, and goes like that, and then points, and then does like these motions that she's trying to articulate something and they don't understand. And eventually they ask her to take the blood that's on the floor, and even though it's dark and they're not using any type of light source, they ask her to write in the on the floor, to tell them what she's trying to say, and she writes it out, but they can't understand the language because the letters are not Roman letters. They're not Chinese or anything, and they couldn't speak that anyway. It doesn't look Persian. It could be Russian or Serbian, but it's certainly not English. And she just keeps on pulling her hair, and she's trying to sign with universal signs, and they don't exactly understand. Eventually, they figure out that something is in the basement and that it's bad, but they don't know. Paul and Annika, who are also the same characters who played Sam and Aaron, go out. And they go behind the play area. They sneak around and they make it to another house trying to look for things. They can't find anything. Paul sends back Annika and to tell them that there's nothing in the house, and he decides to go on his own into the house. Now, while all this is taking place, something has occurred before this movement after listening to the shots and after Paul and Annika going around. There's a voice that comes from the main building, and they're all in the living room. So they can't see where the sound is coming from. They can only see where the shots were coming from before, but they can't see any other part of the house. They have not gone upstairs and looked out of the northwestern window, which would have shown them more of what was going on, but they in a panic as players and as characters didn't even think of going upstairs. So they're downstairs and they hear a voice. And the voice is a southern voice saying, I think we should parlay. I think you would do well to come and be a part of us. You're obviously good shooters. Well, inside the house, they're discussing what that might mean. First of all, they had to define what parlay meant, and then they figured out that maybe two people should go out. Zane and Aaron go out, and they decide that they're going to be the two representatives. The voice isn't the one that comes out. I'm going to send you Polly. You know him, Zany. You remember family, Zany, don't you? So he's calling and directing to Zane. Now everybody can hear what's going on. It's raining. And now there's lightning. And they're out there in the rain. And they're separated by about 30 meters. And there's this man, Paul. And he looks at Zane and says, Zane, I got to do what I have to do. I got to survive. You need to survive too. You need some protein in you. You need to eat. You know we can provide for you. We're your family. Don't do anything stupid. And in the background, the voice of what presumably is the leader. Polly, you speak to him. You make sure he knows what's going on. Zany, you know what's right. You know what you need. You know what you need, Zany. And you know what you need to do. You know what you did to that girl, Kim. You know. Come to your senses. Come to your senses. Your family. We need to get together. Zane is looking over at Aaron, and Aaron is looking at him saying, oh, what the fuck? And Zane is like, look, it just It's okay. And so the leader voice says, I'm going to send out my guy Mo. He's going to put fire onto that bonfire before it goes out. We're going to get some books that we've got. We can feed this fire. So don't be going shooting him. And so this person, Mo, comes out as the dialogue is going on and brings out a bunch of books and puts them on the fire, and the fire kind of starts coming up, and he goes back and forth while this discussion, this this confusing discussion is going on between this leader, Paul, Zane, and Aaron knows Zane the best because Aaron has been talking about Miles, talking about his life, and has become an anchor to Zane and Zane to him, and has talked about Kim in a very loving, caring way. I said earlier on that we went from 4 to 5 players and then back to 4. After this session, being the last, there the individual had missed the first 2 sessions, and then missed the last 2 sessions, and I had to inform the individual that they were no longer part of the group. It was unfair to the other players, and one of the things that is very important for me as a GM is attendance. If you want to play, you make that commitment. And I could understand the second week's reason, but not the first, and certainly not the last 2 with no word coming to me. So this player character had now become an NPC. So here is Zane kind of listening to everything that's coming from this leader character, and Mo goes back inside the house, seemingly, according to the group, and the group is moving closer to the house because the leader is saying, and his name is Owen, come on, Zany, you and your friend, you come in. Paul will treat you right. We'll come on in, and you, sir, we'll have a discussion. If you're open to a discussion, we'll give you some tea. We'll give you some veg, some protein, and we'll have a good conversation. You tell him what's right there, Zany. And Polly, you know what to do, and Zane, you know what to do, don't you? And so Paul kind of Polly points at the door, and they've moved out of the range so that the people who are in house number 10 cannot see them any longer. So there is a moment where I say to the group, I need to speak to the player, and the player and I go aside and out of earshot, inform him that there is there's a roll that he has to make. He tries to make a mobility roll. He fails his mobility roll, and he is knocked out. And so he's not allowed to speak. He returns to the group, and he sits there silently. So the group assume that everybody has gone back into the house. In the house is now Dakota, Paul. Well, Dakota, Paul, Daisy, and Annika. Paul has returned. from an adventure, and this is Paul's adventure. Paul goes into the house while all this is unfolding. Before everybody gets into the house, after everybody gets into the house, he gets to the back door of house number 1. He goes and sneaks into the back. The house is dark. He can see some light in the door leading to the basement underneath the door. He looks around and sneaks around and comes across Mo looking outside with a number of kind of challenges or roles. He definitely, Paul has the advantage and slices Mo's throat, killing him with a sneak attack and with a fair amount of damage. He now binds him up in a way until he turns and goes toward the basement. At this point, they've gone downstairs, the group, and so nobody seems to be upstairs and nobody is on the main floor. Everybody seems to be downstairs in the basement. So Paul, the gamer, hears from downstairs. Polly, you go upstairs. You tell that Mo he should come down. He should eat with us before things get a little ugly. We gotta deal with that other group. But you tell him to come downstairs. They're not going to do anything while we're a speaking. And so Paul hears Paulie. They're both named Paul. I don't know what I was thinking. Is coming upstairs. The door opens, and Mo, as a walker, is shoved in his face to bite him. In the confusion, before Paulie has a chance to scream, Paul attacks him with a knife, kills him with stealth as well, with great rolls. Again, feast and famine for this player. And then shoves down the walker, Mo, and for some reason cuts off the head of Paulie and throws it downstairs. And then all of a sudden realizes, they're going to come up now. So he makes a break for it. He does escape by the skin of his teeth, but he gets out as they're kind of confronted with a gnawing little head at the bottom of the stairs and a zombie that they have to deal with at the bottom of the stairs. So those two individuals are now out of it as well. Meanwhile, downstairs, Aaron is in a room where if he bends his head up, he can see the door. He wakes up slowly. His arms are bound. His legs are bound apart. He has a big belt holding him down around the waist, and he can only get his head up so far. He sees the medical equipment in the back of the room, a very dimly lit room with those type of wind-up lights. And there's a couple of candles, even. He looks beside and hears sounds of a woman. And as he looks over, he sees who was described as Kim, wearing her shirt, with her arms bound and a belt around her waist in the same way as him. A leg is missing, and there's a stump that he can see just barely that wasn't too long ago stitched up. And then he sees an old man with some of the medical supplies stitching up a new stump. As a very large woman moves back and says, "This will make good jerky," as she drags the leg behind her. Before they hear all of this commotion, Owen, the leader, is asked by Aaron to talk. So he talks. The upshot of this conversation is that Owen says, "You've got a choice. You join us, or you're going to get eaten." And so the player is debating what to do. Zane is in the corner, and this large woman has returned to the door, and there's another woman's voice in behind her, and he sees another larger, older woman kind of saying, "Now, kids, you hurry up." And the larger woman, Jenny, is saying, "Yeah, we got this, Ma. We got it, Ma." And so Owen continues this threat. "If you don't let me carve a W in your head, and you don't kill Zane for his disrespect, you'll be eaten, and not him." And the player is thinking about it. We switch back, and I go back to the group. And we all return back to the group. He's not allowed to say anything to give away what has been going on and transpiring downstairs. But before he goes back, Zane doesn't have free rein. From behind, and before hearing that his life is on the line, Jenny the butcher grabs him from behind and holds him. At this point, this is when Polly's head rolls down and everything. Like, they believe that that he's going to give him a chance to kind of think about this and what he's going to do. And he's telling Polly to get Mo, but Mo is now a zombie or a walker and going down. It's mayhem. Back at the house, back at number 10. Paul returns, saying to Dakota, Aaron, Daisy, and Annika that they all have to go, and that something's going on downstairs, and that there's no parlay going on the main floor, and it doesn't sound like it's a good thing down there. And Zane is nowhere to be seen, and so everybody has to go, and we have to deal with this right away. So they all come in the back, and they're just about to enter in to house number 1. So we have Doc Martin, Ma Jenkins, who are the older two, And Ma seems to be the leader. Jenny is a butcher. Kim is alive, but does not have any legs. And she is out cold at the moment. Aaron is still strapped down to this table, and there's the smell of a jerky machine in another room where Ma and Jenny were. Owen is out in the hall, seeing what has transpired, and he's now looking up at the stairs. Zane is still being held. The door upstairs opens. Paul is there with a hatchet. No, a knife. A knife, and throws it into Owen's head. And the last scene of the last game a few days ago was that this feast and famine character, I think, rolled 7 successes. So Owen straight up died right away. So Owen, who was shooting left, right, and center from upstairs earlier on that day, and who is the scary leader, is dead. Now you'll notice that I've introduced some people, Ma, Jenny, Doc, who are not in, and Mo and Paul, who were not in the scenario. This was to make it broader so that we could move into that campaign aspect of the setting. I have given them an out that there is a vehicle, a car, that is inside the back of number 1 on that eastern side of the house that can drive out. This will give them an opportunity to escape if they are smart. But only one character noticed that, and I believe that it was Annika who took a look and saw that it was actually an open garage. The majority of the horde is coming from the south and the east and now the west. They could probably plow through, but who knows? They have to figure out, what are they going to do with Kim? They've got to save Aaron. They need to get through Ma, Doc, and Jenny, and Zane. It is going to be a fun ride. I'll show you some pictures of my setup and some just pictures of things. You've seen pretty much my setup. I just want to say that I was wrong in my video before about my fears of The Walking Dead. I do not fear The Walking Dead. It is an amazing game, and I am enjoying it more than I ever thought I would. The players are invested, interested, challenged. It is thought-provoking. There are many ethical issues that need to be wrestled with, things that can really spark your brain moving. It is a wonderful game. I encourage you to at least get the PDF. I think that the Wolves Den is an amazing scenario that can be broadened with some intentionality. If you didn't notice, I did use NPCs from the book. I rolled and I rolled a number 2, and I used Doris and those characters as part of the NPC's core group. But of course, knowing that they were going to leave them behind. And, well, who were they going to leave behind? Remember, they had a cast. So far, the cast, if you include the player characters and non player characters, are 40 so far. I have created 40 other images and people with statistics for the rest of the 6 weeks that we have to play. And so this has been an absolutely wonderful experience. We're a little over halfway with our time together this summer. We play weekly, and there's 3 weeks where we will have played 3 times. So it's been lots of fun. I really love this system. I love some of the nuances. There's some kinks that the GM needs to work on, but otherwise, it is truly amazing, and I'm very, very pleased. So, thank you so much for listening or watching, and I hope this has inspired you to run The Walking Dead by AMC, by Free League Games, and to enjoy it. This is a great modern apocalyptic tale set in a current timeline, so there's lots of fun to be had. And the zombies, if you didn't realize it, are very much a backdrop to the drama of what's going on. This is akin to Alien, and I think that the uh, the connections that have been made by many people who have put up videos on the rules understand that it is definitely taken from Alien and Vaesen or Vaesen, and both systems are very, very good, and this is a great use. I'm looking forward to Dragonbane and reading more about it before I get it to the table. And again, thanks for watching. Take care. Let the sun shine. Bye.